This is True Buzz, that Mary J. Now we ain't new to this. For my stoners and for my cannabis enthusiasts, never heard a show as good as this. Number one, it's the best. Bringing in many special guests in the industry of cannabis. Business owners to growers, even artists you know of. So sit back and just roll up. Perfect show for my smokers. True Buzz, hey.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the True Bud Show podcast. I'm here with Ishqa. I said it right?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, perfect. The boss of the Canna Boss Babes, or one of them, I should say. The Canna Boss Babes are a collective of cannabis professionals who are dedicated to empowering entrepreneurship and creating opportunities for diversity to thrive within the industry. With a curated network of women and minority-owned businesses, the Canna Boss Babes provide a platform to foster growth and unite like-minded people. Untie the minds, you know what I'm saying? You dream it, let's do it. I love that. So I guess, let's just take it from there. Tell us a little about what you got going on. And thank you for coming on the podcast. I was going to do January 1st. A lot of things have been happening. So February 1st is kind of the relaunch, doing weekly ones. So thank you for being one of the first guests.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so used to being the one doing the interviews. So this is a different experience for me, and one that I'm happy for. I'm excited to be back on air again.
It's nice being on the other side, right? Because like when I've done them, I'm like, it just like seems a little different. You're like, oh, I don't actually have to I can just kind of sit here and I don't have to worry about anything else.
I don't have to guide the conversation. Okay. Yeah.
And so I guess we can start kind of from the beginning and the origins of, your story with cannabis and how it began, and how I'm really curious because that's a super, dope brand you have going on, and you got a super cool offer too on your page for, the social media aspect. I think it was 300, nice discount there for anybody trying to dive into that in 2022. Yeah. So kind of just tell me a little bit about your story and how it all started.
Yeah. So the Canna Boss Babes really started a little over 2 years ago now. 2019, then in 2019, I was still working my corporate job. I helped my last company, grow from a 10-year-old business with 8 people. They were making 6 figures here in Long Beach, California, which is very healthy in the architectural industry. And I helped them to scale their business to 30 plus 3 states, 5.8 million in 4 years. I really, I love ensuring the human experience. So from, employees all the way through to the customer experience. And I really get nerdy on organization. So I spent 7 years with that company. And after, I think it was the last 2 that I really felt like there's something else. There's something more. Like they're good. They're really on their trajectory, on that path. Everything's organized. I've recruited this great team, and so it's time to do something more. My daughter was turning 18. And so it was like, well, she's going to go off to college and she's good. And so what am I going to do with this extra energy and time? And as a child, I'm from Northern California. I lived on the streets by myself and was in juvenile halls and group homes. And so I was really feeling called to be able to help kids in similar situations, and learn some of the lessons that it took me a few extra decades to learn, like just about self and what we're capable of and resources and what's available. So, they can thrive instead of just staying in the same circle. So I had no idea cannabis would be it. I resigned from my job. I gave them a 2-month notice. I stayed for 4 to train my replacement. And at around the same time, I ended up stumbling upon some cannabis education. And I had been smoking for a few years because I had struggled with social anxiety years before. And it definitely helped with that. And so finding education that we have an endocannabinoid system, I just was so immediately infuriated because I felt really lied to, right? Like here I was corporate and okay, some people think like really nice home, everything. But it felt like a cage. It still felt like a golden gilded cage, because to deny us that we have an entire system in our bodies that can benefit from this medicine. And especially for someone like me who had such bad anxiety. And I'm like, wait, what? You guys are making me feel bad for being a stoner and smoking weed and like I'm doing a drug or something wrong or dirty instead of just medicating. And so for me, it was an opportunity to try and help the industry. And so because, I do business coaching, and that was what I left the job to do, was business consulting, I found this industry where there were at first so many women in the space. And then they all had the same story. I feel unheard. I feel unsupported. The boys have their boys club. How am I supposed to do this and still raise my family? Or how am I supposed to do this and still pay rent, but like follow my dreams? And so it really kind of started with working with women in the space and finding myself in the wonderful position of aligning and connecting them and for them to realize that's all they needed. So it started
awesome.
there.
Very cool. And that's awesome that you've created that, tribe, if you will, and still are. And, lending that helping hand and the educational aspect, I think is truly important, especially when you're talking about the endocannabinoid system, and just everything about the plant. That's part of the reason I love cannabis so much, is because there's so much still to be learned. Like the fact that it's not, recreational across the states is, the fact that there's not as much studies done, but still, even like diving into the terps with, companies I've been working with and stuff like that, you can take a deep dive, and like I've gone down these rabbit holes, like researching one terpene that can do this and this. It's pretty nuts. Like
Miraculous.
It's insane. And it's ever growing.
It's funny because I have a lot of, I have a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life in my life and that are meaningful and important to me. And I think one of the ones that's been really interesting for me to educate with this, about this plant are the people who, are more religious and that don't even drink, right? So they don't drink either, but then also the stigma around this plant, and then finding themselves in situations where they need healing and reaching out to me to learn more. And so last year, someone I'm very close to, actually, when I was 18, I used to babysit her. She and her twin sister were 4 years old, and I used to babysit her. So she's 29 now, 30, just turned 30. And at 29, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, stage 2 breast cancer, after going in because she felt a lump because she was breastfeeding her newborn. So being a brand new mom, being diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer, it's not in the family, there's no history of it. It's just completely out of nowhere, and all the different things that she learned. And so, she's a young pastor's wife. She had traumatic experiences related to cannabis growing up. Some people have made those associations and think that that's to blame. And so it really was an opportunity for her to be like, Ish, look, I'm scared. I don't want to do chemo. What are my options? What are some natural options? I'm afraid of these pills and I'm afraid of these medications. And so just being able to go and I took her to 3 different dispensaries. So she would have an idea of what different dispensaries look like. And because when you go to one, then they're like, that's the only safe one. But no, you need to go and explore. Everybody carries different things, and everyone's knowledge is different. And so just helping her be comfortable in the space and with asking questions. And then again, this amazing network, because before all this, the Canna Boss Babes, we completed 804 podcasts on Instagram in 85 weeks.
Hey,
so I've made a lot of connections worldwide.
Up there. Damn, that's impressive from somebody who has tried to. I slipped recently, but just doing one a week can take a minute. So
I started the pandemic. So to go back, right? So I started connecting women. And then we started doing events in person the end of 2019. We did those through the pandemic. The last event was actually Leap Day of 2020. So we had an event on 2/29. I just thought it would be fun. We can only have that every 4 years. And so we held that, and then game over 2 weeks later. I didn't want to stop the connections. So I went on and went live. And I did 40 by myself in the first 2 weeks. I was exhausted.
Damn. That's serious. Like, and
Yeah.
I, you know, it's people that like who are in the content world or making it truly like respect that, like I do myself. But to that point too, what I realized my biggest goal last year, I slipped a little bit, but this year especially is the live, because it allows for you to do that much work and not have to worry about, like, for instance, I'm going to take this, I'm going to have to put it into my editing software, re-upload it. So the live is the future on so many, it's been for a while, but it's where it's at.
I think so. It certainly was for me. So my first 2 weeks though, my first 3 days, let me tell you, my first 3 days were hell. Because Instagram didn't save lives back when the pandemic first started. That was something they started doing probably 3 months in.
Okay. And see, I didn't even know that. You schooled me
Oh
here.
yeah. So if we wanted to save our content, you had to screen record it.
Oh, okay.
Which meant that in between the 5 to 6 lives a day that I was doing, I was trying to go back and screen record it while it was posted just for the 24 hours in the little live thing.
Okay.
Oh, it was murder. First of all, watching yourself that much.
Oh yeah,
It's
that's the
terrible.
hardest. That's why I want to get an editor the most. It gets brutal. I'm like, I can't stand my voice. Like, get away.
It's like, it's so, you're just like, I mean, now the good thing about it is people take pictures, like a group or whatever. They're like, oh, do you want to see it? I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like I looked how I looked in that moment. If you caught me that way, I guess that's how I look. Like live has taught me that those things really don't matter.
Absolutely.
And live really helped me to really embrace authenticity even more. Like I love transparency, I love authenticity. Like my corporate life, I was all about, culture and leadership and really, trying to create equitable workplaces. But with this space, just being able to really let the cards fall where they do, right? And having the real conversations and seeing where it goes. And I don't know, there's something beautiful about that, and I think we need to do more of it. I think too much of our world is already edited for us.
I completely agree. And that's where I've been the biggest fan of realism, just from the cinematic days when I was younger, enjoying long take shots and stuff. But like more recently too, or in the past, I've thought like, am I hurting myself sometimes doing this? Or at least for like YouTube content, is like, because
Right.
sometimes I'll see, like, I was watching a famous YouTuber the other day. I forget who it was. It was that Philip DeFranco dude. And he had some news clip, and I counted, it was 15 seconds. He had 8 cuts, just, like a talking head, like me right now.
Yeah.
And
What's the ROI on that?
because they just want to nail you with because like taking out all the blank space, even if I took like a breath like that or something, I think I don't know. To me, that's always bothered me. Like, I'm a YouTube lover, but like that's always bothered me. So I'm a huge fan of what you're saying, but I
Yeah.
wonder sometimes, should I maybe edit more just to give people the punchlines a little more? So that's kind of something that's been in my head too.
So I think for that, and this is what I was thinking too, because Instagram took the Canna Boss Babes page down in November. So we were nominated for the OC Cannabis Awards Best Podcast. And as soon as I created this cute little snazzy post with awards ceremony music behind it and looking like lights and vote for us, and the page went down. So I was like, thanks, haters.
So somebody
It happened in
they
Vegas too.
took it down, or like
It's down. Yeah, the page has been down since November. Yeah. But it's okay, because 804 lives is a lot of lives. I was tired, Jack. You know how much work it is. And I'm doing all the marketing, and at this point, the website's been redone 5 times by me, so like there's a lot of work that goes into it. And then we had so many other hosts too. And so just coordinating them and their guests and the marketing and the this and and I'm organized, so I can do it all. I've got my scripts and my systems and my workflows. But I'm ready to be putting energy into the growth of it at this point too. And it just was a lot to maintain and it's just Instagram.
Yeah, that's
just Instagram, people.
and that's
So, like Like, and then Instagram shutting you down. They're limiting how many people can see your stuff. It just didn't seem to make sense to fight to get that situation back. So I'm really looking forward. You were talking about February. I'm thinking March to bring back the Canna Boss Babes, but probably once a week, like what you're doing, and over on LinkedIn. Because for me, what I found more than anything in the last 2 years of doing this is I'm not an influencer. I'm not about taking the photos of myself and like all of that stuff. I'm an advocate. I'm about speaking the truth, creating platforms for other people to come in and share their stories too, and really educating people outside the bubble. And I think that the next social media platform to do that is LinkedIn.
Agree 100%.
So we need educated professional people and people who have connections to help this industry move forward in the way that it deserves. So
that's one of my biggest focuses this year is LinkedIn. I'll message people and whatnot, but like just getting more engaged myself, because when I got into the cannabis world on LinkedIn, I'm like, oh, this is super dope. Like you're saying, like people are sharing everything about the industry in a real way.
Yeah.
So that's really big for me too. I was initially just thinking doing some photos and stuff and maybe posting a video, but like I've thought also too about like just making content specifically for that. And if it works for YouTube or something else, cool too. But I think there's a lot there. I've seen some stuff popping up like recently, like, oh, I got a post taken down or something, but I think they're the most lax of over IG for sure. YouTube, all these Googles, Facebook, all this stuff. But we'll see, it's so interesting to see these platforms and see how they go, like what will happen. And I think maybe the reason for that is because everybody on there, most people on there in the cannabis world, like you said, like legit professionals in the space.
Yeah.
So it's like, yo, this is my job. Like, I'm not just, doing whatever.
But I think also LinkedIn doesn't have anything against cannabis, right? Like it's there as a business platform. It's not there to be Facebook or Instagram. You know what I mean?
For sure. You know what I found the other day that was an interesting, they're going through some deals, but it's called Odyssey. Have you heard of that?
No.
I just hooked my YouTube up to it, synchronized it, but it's like a smaller creator platform that's using blockchain technology. So essentially you make their coin on it, the library token, I think it's LBRY, but they're going through some shit with the SEC right now because it's a good idea, and they Google is getting mad or whatever it is. It's just cool. And I think that's a lot of the future too. And that's why I love podcasts, is like the RSS feed and just being able to take, let's just say, this piece of content and have it synchronized over all the platforms.
Yeah.
I think is the key, because I don't know if you cut clips for all your stuff too. Like we're saying, it just takes a minute. It takes some time.
It takes some time. And so that was the other thing too with Instagram. The idea of going back to Instagram is, honestly, even the orientation is opposite of any other platform as well. And so, if I want to show on YouTube or any other platform what I'm doing, it's in this orientation, not here. And so that doesn't do anything. Like that looks horrible on every other platform. So it's really about, where's the investment in time? And then to your point of the edits and the clips and things is, I think it would, one thing I would like to build in that I didn't have time for before, but I would want to make more time for now. And with doing one show a week, I would better make sure I can do that, right? Is having a few clips that I can use to promote it on the platform it is hosted on the other social media platforms. So we're still growing, we're still engaging, we're still capturing, but it's being redirected, and I think I'm probably going to be putting more on my website this year as well, because got to get that traffic up. That's really where it's at.
Yeah, and I think that's where I've been slipping too, and that's like the biggest thing, right? Is building that own community that you have control over without worrying, because it's stressful making all this shit and all of a sudden it could be gone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, but I think that's, and
we had
that's
almost 8,000 organic followers. So, and it was just gone when just gone. Like I posted that post and 2 hours later, the page is gone and everybody's freaking out.
It's a nuts. And I think I'm an optimist, so it's like I'm always like, okay, that will lead to something cooler like in the future,
Oh yeah.
and cool ways to like work around it. But it's just so
It may still come back.
yeah,
It could come back at any day.
yeah.
And at some point, if I want to go and get it back, I can go down to the offices. I know where to go and who to talk to. Like, it's going to take a day. I don't got a day.
Yeah, it's just crazy. The craziest thing to me is just like using alcohol as an example. It's like, okay, how many how many accounts have been deleted where people are like drinking like excess alcohol, whatever it is, it's like doing crazy shit. It's like that's probably all still up. Like,
Oh yeah.
it's just the
Oh
weed
yeah.
hashtag.
And some of the highest views too, because like drunk people are funny, right? Like drunk people do dumb shit and that's funny. So like let's watch that over and over again on repeat. Come on. We can do better.
Yeah, I agree. And this is what I've said too on other podcasts before, is like the optimistic aspect of just how it's made us to be more creative. It's like we can't get revenue through this traditional through YouTube ad or through Instagram ads. We have to work with brands and doing like stuff like that and sponsor stuff. And I think at the end of the day, years from now, when it comes down the line, it's like I feel like that's where the cannabis industry is going to really separate itself from others, is having that experience.
So what are your thoughts on the celebrities now starting to get in on some of the action, right? And not just starting, because there's some that have been a part of the industry for a while, but they've been a part of the industry for a while. We're now having people come forward promoting it and brands paying them large amounts, where we do have content creators in the industry that have been doing this a long time that, I think it's interesting.
I think it's interesting. My thought on all that, and like even a celebrity making his own flower brand or whatever, most of those I think are going to die. I think that I feel like people who've actually like been kind of in the trenches, or at least, use it frequently. I think that might be like new people, but it's like certain people can see through that. Like if I see a celebrity all of a sudden endorsing some brand, I'm like, dude, you just got paid like a stack. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it shows through a lot of times, just like subtly, at least to me, that's what I think of a lot.
Yeah.
But like, there's brands doing it right. But like, there's been so many brands, right? Like, especially in a hip hop world, all these different flower companies, it's like, it's not sustainable. Like there needs to be the whole, and I'm trying to think of the best. I don't even know the best hip hop dude who's done it yet, but maybe Wiz Khalifa, but still, I mean, Burner, all those guys, but it's like, I don't know. It's interesting.
Soulja Boy is not doing bad right now with Grizzly Peak. Let me tell you, the Grizzly Peak has really got some good deals. The Soulja Boy part cracks me up every time, but I'm like, yeah, but it's been pretty good mid. So
well, and that's where I've always I'm such a hip hop head that I'll always try it, but I'm like, I'm just like, I don't know how it's like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm just like, I'm thinking too short. Second round was good.
I haven't tried it, but I was doing a PAD the other day and I saw somebody come in and ask for it. But it's like the people I have, I guess, like with the biggest, like with the old school following that I have like the most respect for, bringing products to the California market are probably like, it's like, it's hard not to love Cheech and Chong stuff,
Oh yeah.
And those are dudes who paved the way for everybody. But it's just like, I think and that's the crazy thing. And that's where the industry is changing, is it's like people come into the shop and what's the highest THC percentage? What's the cheapest thing you got? I want a good deal at a good price.
Right.
And I get it. I've done the same thing and I still do. But it's like changing that conversation to the actual, like you're saying, talking about the system. How is this going to react to you? Because I would hear all the time, edibles don't hit me, bro. And that's true. Everybody's biochemistry is different. But like you were alluding to earlier, a lot of people have these one-time situations or know somebody that got so high on an edible, so it scares people. Or it doesn't even have to be an edible. It could be smoking a little sativa and getting.
But a lot of times it's an edible.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, it's just it's exciting to see everybody doing their thing. We'll see what sticks, but that's I guess this is a little different offshoot, but that's kind of what's in a way scares me about but about like federal legalization, is I feel like a lot of these people who've been spending their lifetime building these brands are going to get shut out.
Well, we've already seen that
hopefully.
start to happen.
Yeah.
We've all, they were up at the Capitol, 2 weeks ago, protesting and talking about, with everything that's happening right now, especially in California, they're getting choked out.
It's absurd. And then they wonder like,
Yeah.
oh, why there's all these black market busts or all this black market's popping. It's like, yeah, because at the end of the day, the total taxes these shops are paying is like 40 some like percent. Like it's absurd.
It's more, so that was part of what attracted me to this industry too, was my standard responses of what to do to start a business, and here's for marketing, and here get the, you get a loan and you do it, and they're like, no, we can't do that, no, we can't do that, no, we can't do that, and I'm like, ooh, I love a challenge. So here I am. And I do, but I also, it's really, and through the LBCA, the Long Beach Collective Association, which is a trade organization of different Long Beach operators and different cannabis operators in Long Beach. They've been around for 13 years now, really helping to shape legislature around cannabis here in Long Beach, which is part of the reason why it's such a friendly city to do business in. And so, it was their education that I stumbled upon when I was leaving my job. And it's through them that I've actually really learned how to be able to be an advocate for the plant as well. And it's not just on social media, but in person. And so like this Wednesday, I'll be out passing out food again for people who need it. And, we do a lot of volunteer work, showing up at the city parades and showing people there's nothing to be afraid of, and creating, being able to do job fairs in the community and volunteer. And when you're doing something good, then you're creating this environment where people can ask questions, right? And we don't have to be super loud with cannabis. I can wear just my little breezy puff earrings here. I can just do that and have it start there. But just being able to show up as a person who is a consumer doing good in the community, it helps people within the community be less afraid of it.
100%. And I know you mentioned to me the other day you were doing a beach cleanup.
Oh, yeah.
Is that part of my buddy does the IBC cleanups?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I don't know.
Johnny.
Yeah, Johnny.
He's been doing those for a couple years. I actually went to the very first one in September 2019. That
Oh,
was
dang.
one of my
Okay.
first
OG right
little
here.
events that I went to check out and meet some new cannabis people because I was so fresh on the scene. Yeah, Johnny does a lot of great ones. The LBCA partners with the city of Long Beach and has their own at Alamitos Beach. Really dirty. Yesterday, I guess 2 boats had capsized. So there was just a lot. Yeah, there's always a lot down there. So yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
props to you, Clint. And like you said, it's all about the community, and it's like, how many other, like worlds do you see doing that? Like, I mean, everybody gives back in their way, but it's cool. I feel like the cannabis community in a special way. I don't know.
It's
It's
really
just,
important, I think. Part of the work that I did with Orange County Normal was I was a part of their Orange County task force, which means that we were attending in 2020 different city council meetings where they wanted to be able to start talking about cannabis and bringing cannabis, because as you know, in Orange County, Santa Ana is, or was up until last year, the only city that has legal cannabis dispensaries. And so it's a whole county and it's the only city, and it's 2022, people. That's a little crazy. Costa Mesa has signed on, and I think Fullerton's right behind, or they said yes, they passed it, but then they retracted, or they're figuring out details or something. That's another trick that the city will always do is, oh, we'll say yes, but we're going to take a couple of years to figure it out. Here in Long Beach, we're still waiting for them to figure out how we can execute events, because back in 2019, they approved being able to have cannabis events in Long Beach. However, they haven't figured out how to do it in a safe manner. So that's why we haven't had them yet. But it takes 2 years to figure that out.
well, that's nuts. It's like, well, and it's like, to me, they're like sleeping on all this money. I mean, I know COVID's been an issue, but it's like with these lounges have been slated to open. I know once again, COVID is an issue, at least in the West Hollywood area, but it's like just being in the cannabis beverage world for a while now, it's like, yo, this just makes so much sense. Like doing these events, like when I was with Peerwana, we do these. Did you ever come to one of the events?
I didn't. So I didn't know about you until Hall of Flowers, and now I'm obsessed obsessed. So I wish I had.
That was dope. That was my first Hall of Flowers. Was that, how many times have you been?
Mine too. No,
Okay.
that was my first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a cool experience being there and checking it out. And, you know, just there was so much. Like I would go like take a break from the booth and walk around. And I still couldn't like see it all. I'm like,
oh, Pam and I were so tired. Like it took us all day long. I don't think we were done. We didn't even do the last row. Like we were just like, oh no, we have too much stuff. We can't possibly be gifted anything else. We're so like the abundant blessings. Thank you, everybody. But my arms are literally gonna fall off now.
yeah, that was a super cool experience. And like I was talking, forget her name right now, but one of the ladies who helped find that facility, who's on the commission out there, and she was saying the goal with Palm Springs is kind of to be the Silicon Valley of weed.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's super cool. And I've been thinking about it since Hall of Flowers. I'm like, it makes perfect sense out there.
Yeah,
like there's, and I feel like it's rapidly expanding. And like what you were saying earlier about the cities coming on, I saw a little map, interestingly enough, earlier today that showed the new cities that are slated to allow recreational in 2022. But like you said, who knows? They allow it, and then 3 years later.
Well, they allow it, and then they don't, you know, it's government. There's no navigation. Like the number one rule of working with government is don't expect any navigation. So on that note, actually, I have a 501c3 as well. Because I love the LBCA so much, and the woman who is behind much of the programming, and I of course became best friends. We formed a nonprofit with another one of our good friends, and we just were told that we got approved for our 501c3. So I'm still very excited about
congrats.
that.
Awesome.
Thank you. And yeah, that is Long Beach Peer Education Community Center. And so our whole we're bringing everybody together. We're connecting people and making sure that people have access to the programs and things they need that can make a difference. So education is important.
And it's cool to see certain dispensaries taking like a step forward in that. And I know you said you like going to a bunch of shops. What do you do deliveries at like often, or like what's kind of your thought on that?
I don't do a lot of delivery. I really try to go in and support the shops, and I love seeing all the different babes at the different shops and what they're doing and the new products. And you know, it's not the same thing looking through a delivery menu. I feel like, yeah, and the way these shops just keep changing and growing, and you know, yeah, it's exciting.
And it's so interesting too to see like in this past, because I've this past year just been hitting the ground, hitting all these LA shops, you know, 200-300 or whatever. And it's like, and it's crazy too to see how many new ones are popping up like all the time, just in the LA, you know, greater LA area too. But it's like, it's pretty nuts the amount of like shops that just keep open. And I feel like all the newer ones are open and kind of have that super high end, most of them. I haven't been to like a new shop, if you will, that's open, that's been kind of like old school ma and pa style, you know, like some of the OGs in like shops are.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because it's not a very good business model for just a little ma and pa yet, with the way that legislature is around the shops and how
I'm kind of on the fence there, because I feel like people underestimate, you know, the smaller ma and pa style. If I was personally going to open a shop, I'd go one of the other directions. I would have a super big merchandise shop with people paying slotting fees, or I'd have an ultra small shop that also is a focus on delivery, because I feel like everybody, I feel like all these shops feel like they have to have the nicest new shop with the nicest decorations and all this nice stuff. But at the end of the day, people are just coming for weed. So if you have a nice person there, to me, it's all about the service. Like I'd rather go into, even no matter what size or what the shop looks like, how nice, to me, it's all about the interpersonal experience. So I think in a lot of ways, the smaller shop idea and thought of it's getting slept on these days.
So I really only go to smaller shops. I will go into Haven from time to time. They, you know, they're just one of my local shops, and I love them. They've done a really good job with hiring and people, and you know, with my
cool. I went to a couple of those in Long Beach. Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, they're great. And they give a lot back to the community. So Johnny really makes sure that they're always active within the local community and giving back. So I try to support the shops that are doing that, you know. But I've never been in a Cookies. and I don't have anything against it, but I shop Long Beach Green Room. I shop Chronic PR. I shop The Circle. Shout out Cliff. I
It's a
shop,
dope spot. I like that spot a lot, actually.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So he was my delivery guy back before we had shops.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Word. Yeah. That's sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
So it was funny because, when everyone was wondering who bought the Smart and Final, like I was like, my delivery guy bought the Smart and Final. Yeah. So it's been really wonderful watching him, from dream through inception, and what he's been able to do with that's been really awesome. I'm always proud of that. But yeah, I shop my Long Beach, my LBCA shops. This is my city. That's who I like to support. I know what they're doing with their money. I know they're involved in the community. I know they're involved in educating the community. They've partnered, the LBCA teaches a class at the Long Beach City College, has now for 2 years, which is a cannabis introduction to cannabis class. They've been asked now, because it's so successful, to create a 102. So, they're doing a follow-up, and we're very active with the city and working with helping ensure that we create a social equity program that actually is functional. And so I support the people that do that work. Like that's what I'm about is trying to make sure that my money is going into the world that I want to build.
Respect. You know who I started following on LinkedIn a couple months ago, who's doing is the Catalyst CEO?
Oh no, sometimes we have false players in the game.
Oh,
that would be one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Because I was watching his stuff. I was like, this guy seems legit. He seems like he's calling out the system.
It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate because he's very motivating. And so, he's got that whole used car salesman vibe of being able to, yeah, we're doing this, and getting people riled up. And unfortunately, some people are better at talking it than walking it.
Real talk. Hey,
So,
getting a little insight here. Because I've been following stuff. I'm like, all right, this guy's going a little crazy. But I liked it.
I know, yeah. I just, yeah. I've known too many people that have worked for him that see the underbelly.
Well, and that's that right there. What you just hit home for me so much, is because that's what I love so much about it too, is it's such a tight it's a big community, but in a way it's tight knit. And it's like, you are, your reputation does mean a lot. Like just what I just brought up. It's like, it's like that to me is the beauty. And that's why I always just try to keep it honest, real, and just try to work hard and be cool with people. But,
yeah.
I try my best, but who knows? I'm sure there's people that don't like me, but it's like, it is what it, it's like,
yeah. I don't have a problem with it with a lot of people. I don't, but I've definitely, I work with people who have been in this industry for a really long time. My dear friend Felicia Carbajal is a very prolific activist in the space for a very long time. And I have people who have, come to me with things, and I don't share those stories, but people share a lot of stories with me. And that I choose who I share space with, and I choose who I don't.
Hey, respect that. I mean, that's what it's all about too. At the end of the day, is kind of knowing and just do you, right? It's like,
well, yeah, yeah. I like to do the work. I don't need to advertise it all the time. So.
Yeah. See and that's interesting, I guess, thing about, content in general and stuff too, is it's like, it's always hard to find that balance, right? It's like, because for instance, for myself going in, Pier 1, and now I'm working for this awesome company, Koan, it's like, I'm going so in, doing full-time sales gigs. And it's like, I've kind of slacked on doing my own True Buds TV, but I'm also believe it's given me, I've had so many good ideas and stuff, but it's interesting, when you start, like you're saying, I've been just on the grind. I haven't, so on the outside from True Buds TV, it might look like, oh, Jack's not, doing much really. He did a podcast a month. It's like, no, I've been pretty busy,
Yeah. See, and that was my thing was I would always laugh because Canna Boss Babes was only like 25% of what I was doing, but it was 100% of what everyone was saying. And
Yeah.
it, it was so many shows a week and on constantly and stuff. So they saw a lot of it. But no, a lot of the last 2 years has really been dedicated and spent to being on the ground and doing work with the Social Impact Center and doing expungement clinics and I completed training last year to be able to work with people who are incarcerated and formerly incarcerated. And so, when I left my corporate life, I was doing that to help people in their businesses grow and to help kids in juvenile hall. Now, being in cannabis, the juvenile hall is not as easily accessible, but being able to be in a space where so many people have been harmed by the war on drugs, right? And being able to help to have expungement clinics and help people get their records cleared and facilitate things like that is really life-changing. And so, yeah, cannabis has just kind of fulfilled all the dreams. I mean, there's a lot of things I never expected to be doing. I never thought that, I had social anxiety so bad, Jack, I didn't leave the house except to go to work for 4 years. So the fact that I do all this now is just, my daughter and I both are like, now for this last year, we're used to it, but the first year we were like, what is happening? What is this? Like, what is this world that you're in all of a sudden? And, she's so young. She's like, how are you going out more often than I am? And I'm like, I don't know.
And that's one of my favorite parts too, is like, for the most part, everybody's pretty dang like chill and accepting. Like, I feel like that just comes with cannabis, like use and just being a cannabis user or whoever. But like, I believe that from people who don't use cannabis too, is like, but yeah, it's like my lens. I look at the world. It could be a bad thing. Sometimes it could, I might get taken advantage of or something, but it's like, I'm pretty optimistic with the world of like, everybody's for the most part pretty good people, here and there, but that's where, and also that's why I started a podcast, was to just talk to like you right now. It's like, I learned so much just sitting down, talking to people, learning, like, and the levels you're hitting, giving back to the community. I haven't done that yet. It's a goal in the future. Like, the only thing I think what I try to do is give back with, like, that's why I try to do like pretty educational stuff that's still kind of a little funny sometimes or whatever. But then I do like giveaways on my channel too, but I still haven't hit that, like, deeper, like taking more time to volunteer and stuff. And
you were up close to the Social Impact Center. I could definitely connect you. They've got so many wonderful, great, different events and ties to the community. And just, wherever you want to be able to give, they've got a place for people.
Sweet. Yeah. We'll definitely be in touch about that, because even if it's like, once a month or something for me, it's like just a little something is cool.
Yeah.
And that's a cool thing. Like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
You can always start your own too, whatever it is that you're passionate about. That's what I love is, if you can't find it, just start it. Like, if you, dream it, let's do it.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. You dream it, let's do it. Let's
go. Real talk. Yeah. I have some stuff that's not necessarily like giving back. Well, it is in a way, because I want to do like a free event for people, and I want to make a bunch of cannabis cocktails and be like personally bartending them and stuff. And like, but I believe that can also foster a lot of like relationships, like how we met at Hall of Flowers or whatever. It's like so much can come from these cannabis events and stuff that just can turn into something completely down the road. Like, oh, now we're working together on this, like, other thing that we're helping people out. It's cool to see the way it can go.
Yeah, definitely. And the beverages are really interesting. A lot of people feel that is the way to really help alcohol consumers learn more about cannabis. What do you think of that?
I think it is. I think it's just more socially acceptable. I think it's a great introduction, because, I'd given women in their 70s, 80s cannabis for the first time in a cocktail, 2.5 milligrams, mind you, but they would say, oh, this is great, this is whatever. Or people younger too trying it. It's like, it's just and it kicks in. And that's one of my favorite pieces of the drinks is, hey, you can literally take it sip by sip, have a couple sips, kicks in 10, 15 minutes, whatever, how, depending on you. But it's like, that's the beauty of it too, is these people are so scared about edibles. It's like, just take a little sip, see how you feel. It's like
the nano has been a game changer for that, right? Because of the faster onset. I think before it was harder because you'd still have to wait like a good 45 minutes.
Yeah. The
to an
first
hour
drink,
to see
one
what
of
it
the
was
first
gonna
drinks I had,
do.
is just like an edible. I just drank it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's where the whole nano game is interesting right now. And the whole like cannabis marketing is so funny, the way people like, it's just like a kind of, it's a hot word right now, or nano live, terps. But it's like a lot of the people, companies talking about a lot of this stuff they're just like doing it just for the marketing. I think like, oh,
Yeah.
let's just throw let's throw like 1 milligram of CB in it just to say we had it in there type deal, or whatever it may be, so
Yeah.
that I think that's interesting on that. But I think drinks but the thing about drinks is they are the future, and there's like so much capital in it right now, but it's just the hardest part is getting the buyer, like the dispensaries buy-in, because they're like flower moves, gummies move, chocolates, tinctures, whatever kind of is there. But it's like just kind of, and it's like, yeah, it doesn't move because a lot of people don't give it a chance to move. It's like, it's not moving because you're not going to bring it on type deal. So it's just interesting kind of breaking that barrier within the world of like the retail world.
Yeah. Yeah. So sales is something new for me. I've had, a lot of brands now over the last couple of years ask if I would help them get into shops, and, not really done that, but it's when, talking about these new brands and talking about new products and trying to get them on the shelves, it's you need to know how to stand apart.
Well, and even too with that, like I would have so many meetings with buyers and stuff, and they'd be like, this product's fire, this is bomb. I
Yeah.
just don't think it's going to sell.
Right.
Like, so it's like, okay, so there's like that other level too. It's like, okay, so you like the product, you just don't think, and then that's where it's like,
Yeah.
for me, the biggest thing in beverage in terms of the retail world was just one of them was just saying, hey, I like the brand support, like, because there's so much education involved, like we're saying earlier, but especially with these new rapid onset things, and once
Yeah.
terpenes and different cannabinoids are introduced, there's just a whole nother world.
Yeah. Well, and that's where the education's so important, right? And doing PADs. That's one thing that you'll definitely be seeing the Canna Boss Babes be doing and handling a lot more of, because that I think is one of the bigger needs of the industry right now, is that education. And then also for the shops, just to get that extra promotion. So when the brand and the shop can work together to really create an experience, right? I'm all about the human
For
experience.
real.
And create an experience where people can learn why that product is important, why that product should have a second look, why terpenes are important, right? Why dosing low is better, or having CBN is good, right? Like, because I think that people just like go in the shop, and the reason why they're asking for high THC is because it's the only thing that they've heard about for like a decade now, or two, or
And
their whole life, right?
that's when I was doing these PADs. I would ask people, I'd say, hey, if you don't mind me, if you don't mind me asking, what are you getting today? Oh, I'm getting this edible. I'm like, oh, so do you know
Yeah.
what the active component of your edible is? Most of the time, no. I would
No.
say, and then I would, depending what it was that they're talking about, because I love, learning about all products. So I have a pretty like, you know, wide range of knowledge when it comes to edibles, especially in beverages. So it's just so interesting to see, like you're saying, like, I call it, I'm just gonna like the restaurant theory, if you will, just work in the restaurant world for so long. People come in, they have the one dish they love. I do it myself, order it every time. If it ain't broke, don't fix it type deal. But it's like, hey, there's also something better you can try. Just switch it up a little bit. And that's why PADs are awesome. Like you're saying, just getting it out in front of people, and especially with beverages, because if I'm making mocktails or I have the opportunity to make an active cocktail, when people go in a dispenser and hear a cocktail shaker shaking or even see it, they're like, what is that? What's going on here?
Yeah. Yeah. And even if all they get is an unmedicated version, they still have a sense of what the product is, right? Like they still leave with something. They leave with something that makes them go, hey, um, like maybe I didn't have,
Next
maybe
time.
it
They'll say
wasn't a
again,
good
next time.
purchase
Yeah.
this time, but next time they definitely want to support, because you created with them with an unforgettable experience. And so that's what the Canna Boss Babes will be helping brands with this year, is creating those unforgettable experiences. I do, of course, have a network of brand ambassadors and such too. So I think there's, we've already been talking about aligning some brands with different people and being able to help match them even to events and activations, right? Like just being able to know what's going on. Like I'm a part of a Super Bowl gifting suite that's going to be at Green Street, like there's a lot of brands that would love to go and be a part of that. And so really, but making sure it's not just any, it has to align with the overall vision and the theme. So we need to start, that's how we start taking ourselves
and with that too is like, it's super cool that you're curating that. And there's probably cool ways we can collab with Koan, but it's like, and every ambassador is like not created equal. I'm sure you've seen, like I've gone personally been in dispensaries and I would go and I'm like, is this person like, because they'll just be on their phone or something and the products
just standing there waiting for someone to come over. So that's where for me, the other part of that we're building out is, because I love my systems and my operations, right? Is training. So social media, as soon as you book that schedule, what are you doing to promote? How are we promoting? We're going to be there. Being able to help the brand provide assets to the shop that the shop can use to also promote, sending out an email blast is a huge thing. If you can get the shop to be able to just and if you provide them with the content to do that, there's no reason why they can't do that in time and let people know, and it really can make the difference in sales. And so it's promoting that, it's training, it's training these brand ambassadors, not just in the product, but also in the lab. Being able to get them some lab training, right? And a little bit more education. So that way they're even more comfortable and confident having any range of conversation about any product. It doesn't even have to be just the one that they're there to represent, but the more of an impression that they make, right? The more that they increase that positive experience, the more memorable your brand becomes for that person. And so that's what I'm really excited to do. It ties in my old corporate life of, all my manager training and employee and setting up, corporate culture and core values and how do we exhibit them and all of that, and setting up, customer service and really, creating processes that are enjoyable for everybody. It's creating that memorable experience. So I'm excited to be able to shake out and see how best to serve our industry. And so, that plus the advocacy work, that's what I'll be doing a lot this year of.
That's amazing. And that's kind of how I focus too. I like to try to simplify everything. Like my biggest thing that I try to do is just sit we're talking right now, but in a dispensary or wherever, when I was bartending and making cannabis cocktails, it's giving a person just your actual undivided attention for a couple seconds to a minute, couple minutes is goes a long way. It's more rare that these days, it's pretty rare sometimes to have that actually engage, oh, what are you getting today? I actually am interested. I'm curious what people are buying, so it's I think that's a big component, like you're saying, is just being there, being open to learning too. Cause I love getting questions and people ask me, I get super in-depth question. That was always my thing too. Just keep it real. I'm I don't know, actually, let me find out.
Totally. And that's such an okay answer. I think it's just as valuable to know what your resources are as to be the one resource yourself, right? It's just knowing who to ask and I'm really excited for this. There's so many wonderful people in the industry or looking to join the industry, right? People still want to get into cannabis. I really want to do that. How do I do that? And I think by being able to provide people with education and then also confidence, that's one of the biggest things I do is, through the business coaching, sometimes it's just yes, you can do this, yes, you can. And it's a paradigm shift needed sometimes, it's just a little adjustment, a little tune up. And so, being able to help people, provide them with the education that they need, that can provide them with confidence. And then also with, what you said, of developing a curiosity, right? You're genuinely curious about other people. I think people forget to do that. They're always so worried about themselves and am I okay? Am I okay? Am I okay? That they forget to develop a genuine curiosity and really look at, hi, who are you? What are you here for today? How can I help you? What are you, just whatever it is, but being genuinely like, just genuine about it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And it's,
And you're
and
that
there,
way.
yeah. And then you'll get those people too that just don't care. And then I just want, you get that vibe like,
That's
okay,
okay.
yeah, and I've been there too. It's like me in an Uber sometimes. Like sometimes I want to be chatty in an Uber. It's like, or sometimes I just want to put my headphones on and that's when they start talking to me like crazy. I'm like, there's those different times where I'll have those different times where it's funny,
Yeah.
where it's like, okay, I just want to get my bud and get out. People get standing
Yeah.
in line too. And I've heard so many funny bud tender stories and I've been a part of so many funny bar stories, but it's just funny the way people engage.
Yeah. Well, and even knowing how to engage with the different type of person, right? So if you do get someone that's going to be closed off, how, like, do you just back off completely or do you use a different approach?
Uh,
You know?
yeah. I would say, it's yeah, I'd say always I would always try to like, try to think of or try a different approach, kind of always the
Yeah.
circle back, kind of like
Yeah, always.
straight line, like kind of sales tactic. But it's like, yeah, it's so interesting. There's so many, and that's why and that's one of my favorite parts about PADs too, is not only socializing with people, but it also helps me like selfishly in a way, like, work on, my pitch with the product. Like,
Yeah.
you're getting hundreds and thousands of reps in or whatever. It's like, it's just like practice, you're just going to get better
Yeah.
of, talking about the product to people and educating and all that. So, it's exciting and it sounds like you got a lot going on this upcoming year. And I can't wait to find a way we can collab because, you know, I'm deep in the beverage world and that's
Yeah.
all about the experience, people getting out, having drinks together and, breaking that stigma of you don't have to have alcohol to relax and be social. You can just
Right.
have something else. You don't have to have anything either,
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah. No, I would love that. We definitely will have some things to follow up on it.
Awesome. Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun. Like I said, a whole different experience being on the other side.
Yeah, and it's honestly flown by as it always does. So, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being on. And yeah, I'll be sharing this here. This will be one of the first episodes coming out here in February. So, thanks again so much, and thank you so much for what you're doing in this space. Giving back like you are, because like you said, a lot of people say they might, or you can see it too when people say they are. It's like, but you're just trying to get a check too. So it's like
Yeah.
respect to what you're doing, and I truly have the utmost respect for you. So thank you very much.